There's not really much to it. However, there are some traps you want to avoid falling into. I'm going to take you through the left hand first and then the right hand, because looking at the clarinet, there's a lot of things to cover and it can seem really confusing at first. So the main fingers that are tricky are your left thumb, left index finger, and both pinkies. So your left thumb should go over the back hole of the clarinet and should be facing towards the 2 o'clock on an analog clock. That way you have it covering the tone hole, and if you need to hit the register key, all you have to do is press down. If you have it too parallel, then you'll have to move it up, which makes it really hard to play. And then your left index finger, you want to have it covering the top hole, but also resting over these 2 teardrop keys, but not pressing them down. That way, in the event you have to use them, all you have to do is kind of roll your finger without actually moving it up. Now, these 2 fingers, self-explanatory, they'll each cover these 2 holes, hovering over them nicely without pressing down too hard. And now your pinky should rest over this. It's the E or the high B spatula key. And then the right hand is very similar to the left hand. You have your thumb resting on the knuckle under the thumb rest. Each finger is covering each hole. And then the pinky is covering the low F or the high C spatula. So, through a clarinet, let's have you with, remember, right hand on bottom, left hand on top. There, and then, so when you're not playing, or you're playing a certain note that doesn't go for all the fingerings, your fingers should be hovering over the holes, but not too high. If you keep them close, that won't affect the pitch, but it'll also allow you to let them down fast when you need to. Some tips for the right hand, which is usually, or left hand, which is usually the more complicated hand. I like to think of it as you're holding out something, pointing at somebody. So that way, the relation between your thumb and index finger make almost a V. So that when you would put it on the clarinet, your thumb goes to that 2 o'clock position, and your index finger is nice and angled down over. If you have them too parallel, then that'll lead to fingers not covering the tone holes properly, your thumb won't be in the proper position. You seem to be having great hand position right now, so we're going to move on to playing the first basic notes on the clarinet, which are E, D, and C. E is just the thumb, no register key, and then your left index finger. D, just adding the middle finger, and C is adding the ring finger. So, for the note E, we're going to form the embouchure around the clarinet. We're going to take our thumb and our first index finger and just try blowing in with the same amount of air you're using, but with only this finger. Try taking a little more mouthpiece in. That was closer. I noticed your finger wasn't necessarily covering the entire tone hole. The tricky part about the clarinet is that we have all these buttons, but we also have holes. If you cover the button, but you don't cover all the hole, you'll get a something I like to do to check is if I were to squeeze my hand on the clarinet and remove it, you should see small little marks where the pads were. You don't want to necessarily apply that much pressure when you're playing, but it's kind of a helpful tip to know if you're covering the hole completely. So try playing that E again. You had your clarinet a little too far in, so you want to think of it as a nice angle. That was a lot closer. Try loosening up a little bit in the mouth, but pushing the clarinet up more into the teeth. There you go. Now try doing D, which is the second note.
Do I keep holding this button as
Yes,
well?
yes. Oh, you had it towards the end. There you go. And now C, which is the third one. Great, great. It sounds a little bit spread out, but you're getting just the general tone there. So try raising your tongue up a little bit and playing an E again. That was great. That was wonderful. Try doing that same thing, but with a D. Oh, you're covering the... Great, great. Now C. Oh, your middle finger isn't quite covering the entire hole.
Oh, okay.
It's okay. If it helps, if you start on an E and then go down one note at a time with the same air. Great, there you go. Yeah, that basically concludes our lesson. You're able to properly form an embouchure now, and you've gotten as far as going down to the first 3 notes of the clarinet.